Welcome to New England Ski Journal's Basecamp Podcast, presented by Country Ski and Sport. Ski season is here, and it's time to gear up at Country Ski and Sport. Shop now for your best preseason deals at any of their 3 locations in Hanson, Quincy, and Westwood, Mass. Or shop online at countryski.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome into the New England Ski Journal's Basecamp Podcast. I am editor Eric Wilbur, and I am joined by my co-host, as always, Mike Speason, who's live from his living room, family room, office on Zoom, recovering further from his knee surgery. And Mike, how's it going?
Eric, it's going outstanding.
Good.
You know what's really outstanding? I mean, the knee's the knee. Every day is better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one day closer to the slopes. But even what's more outstanding is that it looks like we are turning back to winter.
Yeah, we're all one day closer to the slopes, if you think about it that way, right? By the time this podcast airs, it will be at the tail end of what looks to be a very interesting week weather-wise. Sunday, we were due to have about a foot of snow at Wachusett. I already made my plans to get out there to Princeton. Like, that's going to be ground zero. Well, it was, by the time you're listening to this, you get how the future thing works. And then Tuesday and then the end of the week was supposed to, into the long weekend, be a little unsettled, snow, rain, we don't know. When you're listening to this podcast on going into the long weekend, you may be swearing at us saying, we didn't get anything. So if that's the point, we apologize. We don't control the weather yet. Maybe the AI will at some point, but we right now do not control the weather. So hopefully we will speak in terms of this being a glorious week of weather. Right, Mike?
Yes. Okay. He said it. I'm not playing weatherman. Eric is. No, it all looks good. Considering, Boston hasn't had any snow in 2 years.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Substantial amount.
Yeah.
I mean, the moral of the story is finally we have some weather coming.
And finally, it's Massachusetts, which doesn't necessarily need the snow, right? Because if you're a skier and you're looking to go up north, then you want to see it's the backyard theory. It always will be, right? If there's snow in my backyard, I'm going to Vermont. If there's no snow in your backyard, hey, here's a hint. There's still snow in Vermont, even though you can't see it. There's this neat little tool called the internet where you can check conditions now. It's amazing. But
it sure is. But
in this case, it's Massachusetts ski areas that hopefully were the ones really helped out. Like I mentioned, Wachusett was right in dead center. So was Connecticut, right? And next week, we're going to have someone from a Connecticut ski area on the air. So it's going to be interesting to ask them, sort of how their weather patterns are, how they depend on weather patterns, for instance. But we have I'm sorry.
I follow, all the way down to DC because my business is the ski industry. I've got reps everywhere, trying to figure out what the mood is, what conditions are. So on my computer every morning, I pull up each state's snow reports.
Okay, good.
Just to see what's going on. I think what is tremendous about this storm, especially, as bad as it can be up at Loon or Attitash or Stowe because of the weather we've had, I just feel for our feeder areas that we can't afford to lose through the Poconos, through West Virginia, and so on. I mean, Whitetail down in Pennsylvania hadn't opened yet, and they weren't able to make snow. Right. I mean, when you look at, the selfish part is, boy, I want Wildcat to be great when I get there, or great because that's where I ski. Well, the only way the ski industry is sustainable is that these feeder areas in other areas, whether it be Indiana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, need to also be doing well to keep the industry robust. But Eric, I'm going to tell you, we've talked about this pending storm and what we believe. I'm scheduled to get 6 to 9 at my house. You said you were going to try to get up to Wachusett.
Correct.
I went into my PT the other day, yesterday, in fact. And, she came out to meet me, my PT doctor. She goes, "How you doing today, Mike?" I go, "I'm doing great. We got some snow coming. Might be 9 to 12 inches, and I'm going skiing Sunday." You should have seen her face. I go, "Just kidding."
Yeah, right. That reminds me of when I tore my ACL back in 06. And I may have told this story before. I had a trip to Tahoe scheduled for the next month, and I went to the doctor asking, will I be okay to ski when I get to Tahoe in 4 weeks? And he was like laughing at me, like, "Dude, you're done for the year. Do you get that?" Didn't really quite catch in. But when you talk about feeder areas and we talk about mountains coming back from the dead, we've got a big one. A big story developing this year in New Hampshire with Tenney Mountain. And now Tenney Mountain it's one of those ski areas that seems like it's always in a resurrection mode, right? Every couple of years, someone comes along and tries to breathe life into it, and it kind of fizzles. This time with developer Stephen Kelly at the helm, it seems like they have a good plan and a good sort of reason for why they're doing this renaissance of, one of New England's most treasured ski areas, but also one of the most forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, we all see Tenney. Okay, everybody looks to the left as they're driving up 93. They see all the windmills up beyond Plymouth, and you see the trails, the old school New England trails snaking down the mountain. And we all just keep driving because guess what? It hasn't been open. Unless you're willing to throw skins on and climb it, you weren't going up it. But I can tell you, I am extremely excited for Tenney to be back. First off, like a Ragged, like a Sunapee, they're all close to Boston. You don't have to go up to the notch. But second off, it has such a history and an important part of that whole Plymouth region. Plymouth State skiers always used to be up there. This, it's going to be really cool watching what happens here.
If you don't, a little bit of background on Tenney, the lone Edelweiss Trail was developed in the 1930s, and then Sam Hall, a veteran of the 10th Mountain Division, famous infantry formed to handle extreme mountainous conditions during World War II, returned from the war to expand Tenney's trail system. The Plymouth ski area was opened in 1960, and that was during the boom of New Hampshire ski areas, really coming into existence. And then the 80s came, periods of instability. And Tenney was forced into bankruptcy and closed. It reopened in 91, rebranded in 92, closed in 96, placed on the market in 2000. It opened in 2002. Like, this place has quite the history, right? Like, bump after bump after bump. Stephen Kelly, who is a developer in the Boston area, bought it in 2022, and has seemingly already made some improvements that Tenney was thirsting for. And it seems like so far so good, right? I mean, it's been a tough start or a tough stretch for the industry in general in New England, and Tenney is no stranger. But what they seem to be creating there seems to be a very special base camp of, no pun intended, base camp of skiers in a community in Plymouth that really, really, really is happy to have that back. So we are excited on this Basecamp podcast to have Stephen Kelly, the newish owner of Tenney Mountain, and Dan Egan, the general manager of Tenney, who's in a role that he had 20 years ago, right? And now he's back at it. So we will have those two on the Basecamp podcast right after this. Since 1970, Country Ski and Sport, the Boston area's oldest family-run ski shop, has been the destination for all your skiing and riding needs. With expert knowledge and service to make your winter sports adventure one to remember. Visit one of their 3 Massachusetts locations in Hanson, Quincy, or Westwood, or shop online at countryski.com.
The Button Ski Hanger is a patented ski storage fixture that safely stores alpine skis regardless of length, width, or shape. This means that your fat powder skis can now be stored next to your narrower carving skis, your race skis, and your kid skis. For more information, visit their website, buttonskirack.com. The Button Ski Hanger is also available for purchase at Amazon.com. So make your purchase today. The Button Ski Hanger is simply better for your skis.
At 4,237 feet, Sugarloaf is one of the largest ski areas in the East and second highest peak in the state of Maine, trailing only Mount Katahdin. Boasting over 1,300 acres of open terrain and a vertical drop of nearly 3,000 feet, Sugarloaf offers a wide variety of terrain for all ability levels. A historic winter is ahead with the debut of West Mountain. It's the largest terrain expansion in the Northeast since the late 1970s, adding 12 new beginner and intermediate trails, 88,000 feet of snowmaking pipe, and 246 HKD snowmaking guns. Sugarloaf is a destination not to be missed. Stay slopeside and plan your trip today at sugarloaf.com. All right, welcome back. Joining us on the old Zoom channel here is, we're proud to welcome Stephen Kelly, who is the owner of Tenney Mountain in its renaissance, and a familiar face, Dan Egan, general manager, again, of Tenney Mountain. You know him, his face from many Warren Miller movies and U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Famer. Gentlemen, pleasure to welcome you both to the show. And Stephen, I got to ask you first that you guys were looking for a quieter place to do this call, and you're up in the upstairs lodge at Tenney, and the problem is there's too many people there. So I'm crying for your problems today, but I'm sure it's a great one to have.
Yeah, it's honestly, those weren't the problems we were having last year. So those are good problems to have, so making good progress against the plan. And it's great to see the hustle and the bustle and the vibe and just things happening up at the lodge, Can
you give us a little background about, what attracted you to purchase Tenney in the first place, back in 2022?
It's a simple question with a complex answer, right? So I'll have to give you a little bit of an abbreviated version of that, but really it's about, the opportunity to do something, different in the world and make it a better place. And, looking at Tenney, and the town of Plymouth in general has got a ton of, positives to it. And Tenney is just a great old mountain. The more I learned about it, and it just needs some help to try to get it back to life. And, really the secret's going to be making it more about, say, just the skiing. Tenney's got all the infrastructure and the bones of a good hill, but it didn't have enough to, today you need to be a four-season resort to be successful long-term, particularly with the expensive, snowmaking and whatnot and lifts and everything going on with climate change. So really we have to make the whole community develop up here, and Tenney is going to be the nucleus of it all, but to make it sustain long-term, it's really about, job creation, housing, solving for that. And that starts to build a community. And then as everything starts to infill around that, we'll eventually have a couple thousand jobs created, several thousand, if not many more, homes and people living in the area. And then, they become a self-feeding ecosystem to the amenity that is then Tenney. But Tenney's gonna be much more than just skiing in the future. It's gonna be, gonna have our winter sports, which are gonna be awesome. Skiing, the snowboarding, the snowmobiling. We've got a pretty cool big year event here today with some X Games folks, and we're gonna bring X Games up here to Tenney Mountain, which is really gonna be a pretty cool happening spot, in the future here in New Hampshire. So it's all about, to me, building community and then allowing us to then make Tenney sustain long term. We add mountain biking to it, disc golf. We'll be adding some zip lining, some hiking. We're gonna be expanding to future trails, future peaks. So there's a whole master plan that Dan and I and the team are working on with some really good SMEs in their field from the industry, from an engineering perspective. So we're really trying to design it well for the long term and looking at everything from all of the different sports we just talked about, but also the to me the most important, which is the brains, is the engineering, all the hydraulics of the mountain and how it's going to flow and make sure it's sustainable for future, given the anticipated future climate change.
Well, that's interesting. You said give back to the community, Stephen. You're a Boston boy, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you're not new to the area. And I know your family has a huge history of giving back and being community activists to one way or another, your sister, your brother, and so on. Do you feel like you're carrying on that legacy at Tenney?
I do. I mean, I guess to understand the beginnings, I'm a data guy. So when I look at the data, Tenney was a really awesome mountain from really 60 to 80, and then they put the snowmaking in, but never really got it going after that. And then, from 88 to now, a couple folks have tried, but it's a capital intense program that's going to be long term, but it also takes a lot of good planning and diversifying the revenue streams outside of just the winter recreational sports. So to me, I look at that as the community element that we can do. Like, we can really help the community locally, who I'd say is, financially, they tend, ski towns tend to struggle when the ski resorts are struggling, right? And when the ski resorts thrive, the community can thrive. So I certainly look at it. My family's done a lot of great things. I'm very proud of all my brothers and sisters and what we've done collectively and individually, in Boston and throughout the country, actually. But for me, I'm an SME in a couple different fields, construction being one of them, and telecommunication towers is another, which has some similarities to the ski towers, although ski towers are a hell of a lot smaller. So I happen to be good at that part of it, and I think that's something that takes a big risk off the table for some developers. But what I'm not really good at is skiing. If you ever seen me ski, I skied for the first time about 18 years a couple weeks ago with Dan, and I was lucky enough to have Dan give me a lesson. So one thing I believe in is team building, right? So I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at, and I surround myself with people who are better than I am at the areas that I need to, to fill the team with. So I brought Dan on as a Hall of Fame, legend, but not just locally, but really internationally. But here locally, it's actually very compelling because he had really firsthand experience of the mountain as a GM and a skier. So for me, being 0 for 2 in that category, he brings a lot of value to our team.
Well, Dan, I mean, obviously, I know you probably about as well as anybody on earth, just because I wrote your biography. So I've had discussions with you that went deep and dark and light and whatever, and a lot of what we talked about was Tenney Mountain, that 2 year, was it 2 years, 2002 to 2004 period when you were general manager of this place, trying to plug every single hole that was popping open. And, it was difficult, and it really weighed on you because this place meant so much to you. You made that clear. So what went through your mind when Stephen comes to you with this offer to come back and try to finish what you started 20 years ago?
Yeah, it's hard to believe that 20 years that went, and how quickly it went. Blink of an eye, one powder turn after another, and 20 years melted away. But, the reason why I'm passionate about Tenney is people, the people that love Tenney, the brand of Tenney, the following of Tenney. That's so evident to me. And over those 20 years when I wasn't here, always conversations about Tenney, riding the lifts with people that skied here when I was here, worked for me when I was here, all that sort of thing. I really felt it was unfinished business. So, it's exciting to be back. It's not the same ski area as it was 20 years ago, because of all the stops and starts that happened over those last 20 years and beyond. But when I first saw that Stephen had bought the place and his background, I just said to myself, finally, a builder, a developer, somebody who knows how to move the needle forward and is going to invest in the place. And that was my first thought when I saw what he had done.
That's a great reason. And, we've all seen the transformation back and forth of Tenney through the years. And I think everybody has a firm belief that we have a future there right now. Dan, why don't you give us a little background on the terrain at Tenney? You and I've skied much of it with you. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Well, Tenney's just a great hill. Sam Hall, one of the co-founders of Tenney, was a skier, 10th Mountain Division, veteran, and He loved mountains. He loved skiing. He understands terrain. He was a logger. And him and his family cut these trails with love of the love of the outdoors, the love of skiing. This is a skier's hill. The glades have skiers' fall lines. The mountains, the trails wind, twist, and dip through the woods the way New England skiing was meant to be. And that Sam Hall signature trail build is iconic. And that right there says everything about Tenney. It's a skier's hill. It's fun to ski. There's an adventure around every corner. There's things to pop off of, and even now with our triple open and the rough Christmas week we've had, you see people having fun playing on the terrain. During our VIP opening, people were like, "Oh, it's got rollers and twists and dips," and I think that's what's exciting about Tenney. It's not a cookie cutter resort.
Stephen, what went into improvements, and what was your realistic time frame for what you wanted to do during the off season, and then what do you envision down the road? Maybe not 10 years down the road, but maybe 1 or 2 years down the road. What can Tenney become?
So obviously, when I bought the mountain, there was a lot of aged infrastructure. So we looked at that first as the initial place we had to invest. We do have some longer term plans, which we'll get to. But to get people to come here today, we had a lot to fix. So really, first thing we did is we looked at the 3 lifts. We've got a lift down at our tubing park, which is a great tubing park. It's over 2,500 feet long. I believe it's one of the biggest in New England. That lift needed some attention, but really the bigger lifts, we've got a double and a triple. We call them the Hornet and the Eclipse. We really rebuilt most of those lifts. Most of the shivs are all replaced, all the rubber linings, the gaskets, the chairs. We actually took all the chairs down and completely rebuilt the chairs, grinded down all the wells, rewelded them, all new, brand new hardware, brand new slats, brand new padding. Even the towers themselves, replaced all the old hardware, fixed a lot of welds on that, and both lifts. So both lifts of double and triple have been really significantly rebuilt. That's part of it. Then the snowmaking is the next critical part. We've replaced one motor, rebuilt 2 others, rebuilt the pump, fixed all the old controls. So we fixed all the old snowmaking equipment. So right now the snowmaking equipment is actually working really well. The lifts are going to be running really well. The next thing we'll attack, after this season is, a lot of the pipe infrastructure needs to be replaced, and we're running into that now. It's old pipe. It wasn't maintained properly, so you have some areas with corrosion and whatnot. So we're blowing some pipe under pressure, which is prone for this old pipe. So that'll be the next bigger piece, is attacking and replacing all of the existing pipe infrastructure, but making sure that's part of our master plan. We're not spending money just to spend money on what I would say is a bad investment, but the good investment is understand what we're doing in the bigger picture, and then overlaying that against what the existing is, and make sure that what we replace is part of the existing infrastructure, and then part goes into the new infrastructure, which we're breaking ground on this year. Once we get through the season, on a new retention pond up at the top of the mountain, which is pretty awesome. We're looking at maybe 35 million gallon pond. It's going to put us in a dramatically different position next year when we've replaced a significant amount of pipe, but also we're probably 7x on what we have for existing water storage. So by then, our snowmaking and the water to feed it will be dramatically different. So really, I think by this time next year, the ability for us to make snow in the windows of pockets that Mother Nature gives us is going to be dramatically improved, which is then going to enhance the whole skier experience for the whole mountain here at Tenney, for where we are at this early phase of development.
That's awesome. I mean, your construction background, Stephen, will bode very well for this revitalization. Dan, your background as a mover, as a shaker, as an excitement maker, one of the best MCs I've ever seen. I know you have commandeered some, I believe, a freestyle skier that's working with you now. And I heard through the grapevine that, you guys are going to bring some electric snowmobiles up there to do an event.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things happening at Tenney. I mean, this weekend, Jan 5th and 6th, we've got a stunt show going on with X Games style athletes and action sports athletes, snowmobiles, quads, dirt bikes, flipping and twisting. You mentioned our newest Tenney Mountain ambassador, Annalisa Drew, 2014 Olympian, X Game medalist, New Hampshire's Olympian, right from New Hampshire. Learned to ski and ride and had most of her success at Loon. Is now hanging out here at Tenney Mountain, which is amazing. And, we're happy to have her. So, and then on, the electric snowmobile, we were a test site for a company out of Quebec just a couple weeks ago, testing their rides down here. So it's pretty exciting to see what's happening. Steve's commitment to technology. We now have the RFID card system here through Access with the gates. We're committed on the energy efficiency and greening up the ski industry. So, and then you look beyond winter, mountain biking, our trails being built by Gravity Logic, one of the biggest trail builders in North America. All good. So it's going to be an exciting ride with year-round activities.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I said that's just awesome because I think you can build a homogenized ski area today that you'll never compete against the big guys, or you can build something totally different with excitement, with energy. And Dan, I think that's what you bring to this equation.
I appreciate that, Mike. You know it. You've been doing it a long time, as Eric, our good man Eric, has there, and Steve brings the energy. He brings the firepower to that energy and his knowledge. So I think it's a great team.
Steve, was Dan?
So we're not trying to be the bigs either, right? We actually want to be Tenney Mountain. I don't care about anybody else. We're going to be the best we want to be, and we are going to be different. We did break the edges and not conform to, say, societal rules and corporate rules. We're gonna be a great family mountain, but we're gonna do a lot of creative things. We're gonna have a lot of really cool stuff we do, architecturally. We'll take some inspiration from some of the coolest places, ski resorts in the world, and apply it to how we're building things here. But as Dan mentioned, in today's day and age, there's a lot of need to be sustainable. So a lot of what we're going to incorporate are a lot of green elements into the design, the construction, the engineering, incorporating a lot of different green friendly elements with lumber and steel, more structural lumber, less steel, but a lot of things on the MEP systems, and maybe even some microgrid technology. So for the people who are familiar with the greening of the world, a lot of ski places are not totally environmentally friendly. We will be, and we're gonna make that as one of our conscious efforts.
Well, you just killed one of my questions, because I was going to ask you if you had a model that you looked at, like, Saddleback or Magic, that you wanted to model, Tenney's Renaissance after. So we'll forget about that question. But, you do say, the construction and the distinctive style of that. I don't know if this is indicative of anything, but I did some research on your background in Timberline and noted that the Legal Seafoods in Braintree, which I frequent a lot, looks an awful lot like the sketch of the new lodge at Tenney, and I made that connection. I was like, oh my, I'm no architect. I know nothing about it, but I can see that kind of definition in there. So is that part of Tenney's future, right? To make its own identity and its own sort of, background, its own reason to come here?
It really, in my eyes, it really is. There's a lot to be learned and appreciated from other successes like the Saddlebacks, right? They're great. And by the way, we want to see New England thrive, not just Tenney, but we just want to, we're going to truly have our own identity. We want to partner with a lot of the independents and share as much as we can to truly make New England a place everybody comes to. My goal eventually, and I said this to Dan somewhat facetiously, but somewhat seriously, is I want people out west flying out here to go to Tenney, not people from the east going out west, and that's going to be part of when we see that happen, when we do the kind of demographic analysis and people come out west to come here. I know we did some great things, and that's beyond all the positive impacts we're having on the local community. That means we really did a good job of strategizing and creating something really special that separates us from some of our competition to draw people from the West to come out and check us out.
You know, when you talk about Saddleback and Bolton and Magic, you know, that independent family focused resort, right? What we see is a thriving in that niche, right? And I think you see it all across the board. We have a great location. So, you know, we're pretty easy to get to, minutes off of Highway 93. You know, and so the location for that strategy, I think, is second to none. Particularly because we're surrounded by ski areas that can't really make that claim, that are governed by other entities outside of New England. So, you know, here, whether it's the design, the look, the feel, the food, you know, total control, right? So how we package that, how we sell that has a Tenney uniqueness to it. Nobody's going to tell you it was a great week of skiing in New England this holiday week. It wasn't, but the lodge was.
Well, there are some PR people that might, but I think there's
somebody
between now.
might. Anybody who comes out and said they're up over next year, I definitely want you to drill into that. I'm going to call you to task on that article, Eric, if that pops up. But, you know, really, when you see our base lodge, and as you just witnessed, we had to move out of it because there was too many people up there. The center is community. The center is gathering. And that's what a base lodge should be. And that's what's happening here.
Well, Dan, I'm going to go on that statement right there to a degree. I've been watching the Friends of Tenney page and watching how busy the restaurant's been every weekend, the events, the music. Plymouth is alive right now with that base lodge alone.
Yeah, no, it's pumping. I mean, and what I like to say is, you know, Tenney's, I think, is winning the word of mouth game. People are talking about us, and that's what we want, right? We can't buy the most ads. You know, we don't have the fastest lifts, but when you hear the conversation, it's about Tenney. And that's what I witnessed at the ski show this year and all fall, the buzz. And, you know, walking around this town, whether it's Plymouth, Holderness, Tilton, Concord, Manchester, I'm hearing Tenney, and it's fun to hear that and just be a bystander in a store and listen to people talk about Tenney. And I'll tell you, after our big air event this coming weekend, a lot of people are going to know about Tenney.
Boy, nothing better than a snowstorm coming at the same time.
Yeah.
Just make everybody happy. Dan, 20 years. I'm stunned with that number. I guess you and I have been friends for a long time, but I can't believe it's been 20 years. What was it like standing there with the ribbon cutting to reopen?
Yeah, no, it's been a lot for me to come back here. You know, I literally had not driven up this mountain road since the day I left. So coming back to Tenney, driving down, getting off exit 26 off 93, coming back down Tenney Mountain Highway with the intention of turning into Tenney, not driving by it. That was a switch that I flipped and really have never looked back. I think both you and Eric know me. When I'm in all the way. I don't wade into the water, right? I tell everybody we're skiing towards the cliff and you better buckle up because we're not going slow. So that's how it's been. And you know, in the face of all that we had to do to get open before Christmas, which had not happened for over 20 years since I was here last time, I was very proud of Dave Laurie, and very proud of our whole team for what they did and the time they did it, the snow, the surface, the groomers. It was good, and it's still been good. I mean, in the face of this week where other ski areas are not letting their ski teams train gates, we've got ski teams training here at Tenney, and our base is holding up, and we're happy to have them, you know, and this is a skier's mountain. It's run by skiers, and we have a skier's mentality.
Well, I think I'm going to make one more comparison of Tenney, and this is just a quick one to Saddleback, in that when Saddleback was closed, everyone was wondering when it's going to open, who's going to buy it, when are we going to have this beloved gem back? It was the same thing with Tenney. All through the closures, you heard people, wondering if this was the person who could change it, or if this person could, be the next step that could make Tenney back to what it was. So I can feel the excitement on the outside. So I can only imagine that being in Plymouth, in that community, how they're embracing this new development of having Tenney back.
Yeah, I think it's a good comparison because obviously Saddleback had its own journey, and now they're really thriving. For us, Dan mentioned we're in a great location, but we have some great partners. The whole town of Plymouth is supporting us. Plymouth State supporting us, and even at the state level, we got a lot of really good folks in the state who are behind what we're doing. And at the end of the day, I think everybody sees the benefit of the economic development if we can really bring Tenney back and create jobs, get businesses locating up here, and really start to eventually build 10,000 homes in this whole area. So this whole area will expand. It won't be just Plymouth. It'll be the 5 or 6 surrounding towns as well that will benefit from the rebirth of Tenney and then building that whole ecosystem out. So it's a long-term plan that's gonna, I think, really have a huge benefit on central New Hampshire.
I got to ask you, are there more developers with this mindset, or is this kind of unique to you?
I'll be honest with you, and I probably shouldn't say this publicly because some of my clients are developers, but I always had disdain for the word developer. So when I was first called the developer, I was like, no, I'm not a developer.
I apologize.
I'm a builder, and but now I guess I am a developer. I can't speak necessarily to what other people look at. I kind of always done it my own way, my own thing. I saw this as an opportunity where certainly there's lots of challenges, and it's a long ball game. It's going to take a while, and just getting the existing infrastructure up, running, getting the vibe of Tenney going out to the marketplace where people are coming. That's a multi-year play right there by itself. Then you start to expand with, new lifts, hotels, and over the time, this whole span, you'd add on a couple hundred, condos, apartments, houses at each wave of this growth span. So it's a long-term vision. And again, I mentioned lightly on the job piece, we plan on, building on an industrial park, which is very closely tied to what goes on in Massachusetts, Greater Boston, and really the 93 corridor, which again, Dan talks about that as being very valuable to us from a skiing perspective, but it's also very valuable to us from an attraction of company standpoint. Companies will locate where places are easy enough to get to, where they can build communities, and they actually look at the demographic analysis to see, A, are the people there, and B, is there affordable housing where their employees can live, and that's why corporate headquarters is now located in those towns. So Tenney really has more infrastructure than people realize, because we kind of have blank canvas with all this acreage right now to create what we want. And we're going to kind of put all of that together. So when we talk community, we really are talking about job creation, housing, and then infilling all of the amenities around it, of which Tenney will be a major contributor to the amenity base,
Dan, I have one more question for you. You told me in our best-selling book, 30 Years in a White Haze, award-winning, I don't know about best-selling, but award-winning, definitely. My goal,
best-selling too. Best-selling.
Good. My goal with Tenney was to have a place that brought back the real essence of skiing. It was a huge success for me personally, and we achieved a lot. We reopened and rebuilt a ski area that is now destroyed. How do you, very nice. Thank you very much, Stephen. How do you feel that statement is now, it's no more. Tenney is no longer destroyed. It's building itself back up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's huge, right? One, I don't think nobody really ever wants to leave a project unfinished. And knowing Tenney's potential and bringing it back, it's amazing, right? And I think also to have a ski area that gives a nod to skiers and riders, to action sports athletes, to the X Game athletes that are here this weekend, to people like Annalisa Drew, when she just said, what's my job going to be? I said, I'm going to do for you what I wish every skier, all my ski areas had done for me, like honor you, put you in your right place as an Olympian in this state of New Hampshire. We can't forget about these athletes, when there's no union for X Game athletes, we got to honor these people. And, And I love that. I love the tradition of that. You know, when you look at, you mentioned the great ski areas of New England, you know, Smugglers and others. There's a history of people, a lineage, a generational tie to these locations. That generational tie is huge, right? And so that feels good, right? When grandparents are coming up here who learned to ski here and they brought their kids and they're bringing their next gen here, it's great. I can't tell you the number of past employees, unfortunately, who have died over the 20 years, and their children have come up here to see me at Tenney. Like, that's amazing. You know, the people parking our cars in the parking lot, some of them were still here when I was here 20 years ago. Ray, who's running our lifts, has been here for 20 years since I left. Still here, still loving Tenney, still plugging. So there's a lot of reasons why I think Steve's, you know, investing the way he is in the community and the people up here.
Know the best thing, Dan, because you and I spoke about it when you took over this position. The best thing is that the iconic 10E sticker is back, because that sticker at one point was viral in New England.
You know, I appreciate that, Michael, because, you know, of course, when people think about iconic stickers, they think about Sugarloaf, right? You know,
Mad River Glen.
Yeah, Mad River Glen, right? I mean, those are the two top stickers. There's no doubt, right? But we had traction with Tenney, and it's hard to get that traction, and it's back now. And we've had a lot of requests for the 10E stickers, and I love that it's starting to churn again in that direction.
I've got to get one. I can't wait to grab a sticker and grab a few runs up at Tenney this winter. Stephen, Dan, thank you very much. This was awesome. I think it's very encouraging, you know, what you guys are doing to a place like Tenney, and, you know, that is beloved. And that's important now, especially as, you know, in a day of the mega pass, that small areas are starting to rebuild something, to rebuild a trust or just a connection with its skiers. And I think that is sort of a full circle thing that maybe we're undergoing here. And it's great to see Tenney part of the Renaissance. So thank you very much for both joining us in the Basecamp podcast, and good luck all the rest of the season.
We appreciate it. We'll see you on the slopes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. That was great. And I had to go get my Tenney hat, my new Tenney hat, to show you that.
Nice.
Very nice.
Nice. Like it.
We believe, let's make Tenney great.
Nice. Well, we appreciate everything you guys are doing, and you would love to have you both up here, Michael, when you're ready to rock and ski again. Let us know. Come up, hang out, and let's ski. And Eric, let's go, my man.
You got it. Absolutely. Me and Aaron Rodgers there will be skiing the slopes.
You and Aaron Rodgers, exactly.
But I'm gonna make him ski on narrower skis so he can actually carve a ski turn for me.
Yep. Stephen, Dan, thank you very much. Good luck to Tenney. We will be right back after this. This is the year to visit the Jackson Hole Mountain Resort. With over 450 inches of annual snowfall, 4,000 vertical feet of continuous fall line skiing, a world-renowned ski school, and terrain for everyone, the Jackson Hole Mountain Resort is perfect for your next ski trip with friends or family. Off the slopes, Jackson Hole offers adventure and relaxation. Visit Yellowstone or Grand Teton National Parks. See elk, moose, and bison roaming in their natural habitats, or relax in a hot spring or at a spa. No more excuses. This is the year to go visit Jackson Hole. Go to jacksonhole.com for more information.
Hestra knows hands. For over 80 years, Hestra has been producing the highest quality, warmest gloves you can own. Crafted with durable, form-fitting leathers, they are made with the end user in mind. Don't let cold hands end a great day of skiing or snowboarding early. With hundreds of different options, you'll find a Hestra glove that fits your needs. Check out Hestra Gloves at hestragloves.com. That's HESTRAGLOVES.com. Or at your local ski shop or wherever Hestra Gloves are sold. Hestra Gloves, taking care of your hands since 1936.
All right, welcome back. Mike, when was the last time you skied Tenney? I'm going to assume it wasn't recently since it hasn't been open.
No, it wasn't recently. And somebody asked me if I've ever climbed it on skins. I go, no, I probably should have. But the last time Tenney opened, I forget who the gentleman was that purchased it. They opened to a snowstorm. And day one opened, I wasn't capable of going up. Day two, I made the trip up there by myself, and it was unbelievable. Probably 18 inches of fresh snow from 2 days prior. And I skied the normal trails, because the ski area really hadn't been taken care of. Things weren't there was pucker brush everywhere. There were few trails that were good. The ski patrol they had there was brand new, really knew nothing. So I skied a couple runs, and I looked at a brand new ski patroller, and I tried to explain to them that I had skied Tenney so many times. And please, listeners, don't judge me on this. I asked him if I could duck a rope to go ski some of the stuff that I had skied so much.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah, I don't condone it, but I did ask, because if he said no, I would have backed right off. But I'll tell you, there is some skiing at Tenney that is unbelievable. I made turns through the pucker brush, and I took pictures of it on a pair of 106 width ripsticks, because I was with Elon at the time, and on Sweet William, on Forget Me Not. And it was utterly incredible going, this mountain is real. And I probably made 6 or 8 runs that way with the ski patrol saying,
blessing of the ski patrol. Yes.
Yep. But I'll tell you what, it is a fun skiing mountain with no pretentiousness.
What do you compare it to any other mountain? I know Stephen doesn't want us doing comparisons, but do you compare it to any other mountain in terms of pitch, terrain, difficulty, etc.?
The lower mountain itself, the run out under the lift, Tenney's biggest drawback has been the double going up the main mountain. It's always been the drawback, because
it's probably now the slowest lift in New England, correct? Now that the triple is gone.
Yeah. Well, I was going to mention Attitash, same type of thing, except Attitash took you over pitch. At Tenney, the pitch comes at different levels. So the area that I was skiing on that day is fairly steep. Dan and I had skied it numerous times when he was up there. But the pitch under the main lift has a lot of flat spots to it. It's natural terrain. So as soon as they can replace that lift, it will become a lot of fun down that main face. Whether you go left or right as a skier, that's where you can find the pitches that are super, super fun.
Did somebody just do the thumbs down on your Zoom? What was that? I just saw a big thumbs down pop up on your screen.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we're getting Siskel and Ebert by someone here. I don't know what's going on.
I didn't see anything.
Producer note, I was just telling you guys that I was getting a little bored with the discussion.
Oh, okay.
Either that or I hit the wrong button.
Maybe I need to wrap it up then. Jeez.
No, let's nix that. Where do you want us to continue?
So I don't have to nix it.
Yes, it sounds terrible on when you're listening to it. If it's
okay, so we'll cut that out. All right.
Yeah. So cut it from where I said somewhere during my day on the hill, my last day there.
Okay.
So Eric, have you skied there?
I have never skied Tenney. I am going up within the next couple of weeks though, because I can't wait to check out we hear a lot about these mountains under new ownership, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And a lot of the time it just doesn't materialize because of one reason or another. It's a difficult industry to get into. I think Stephen Kelly, with his background in developing and what he's done already just in the past, 12, 18 months, is already, far ahead of anybody else that has owned this place. So I'm extremely interested to see the development of Tenney, and I'm even like they talked about the community, and to have this place as Plymouth's own Tenney is going to be a magical sort of story to watch as it opens up.
Oh, it sure will be. I want to revert back just a little bit. You asked me what ski area would it ski like?
Right.
I would put it as a very large black. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Has some great skiing in the trees and the steeper stuff, but it is very friendly to your average skier.
I'll tell you what, if you do a marketing thing where you say, hey, Tenney is the black of Southern New Hampshire, it's a lot quicker to get to for Bostonians. That's a marketing campaign that would work based on black's popularity. But I'm not a marketer or a PR person. I don't know anything. So, Mike, anything else?
I think that's it. I'm just, first off, Dan Egan, dear friend. I'm stoked for Dan to be back home. And Stephen Kelly, Dorchester boy, doing something good in New Hampshire. This is a all-in New England project that I'm stoked to see where it goes.
Thank you very much. I am too. I can't wait to see what happens at this place. I am Eric Wilbur. That is the Basecamp Podcast. We will see you next week.
New England Ski Journal's Basecamp is a Seamans Media podcast. Seamans Media. Inspiring, informative, insightful.